For comic book collectors, hasn't it always been a buyer's market? Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up an order of comic books. It was a back issue order that I placed from P. Willis on Atomic Avenue, and I was able to find a really great selection of back issue books, including one book that I had been seeking out. I had my eye on it pretty much since just before Halloween when people were talking about homage covers. Every time I see those homage covers, I just like look at the original and just go, I think I really would like the original. And in many cases, everything's homage now, so the originals are very, very common and affordable, or more common and affordable than you'd think. But the thing going around right now is around the comic book market. I mean, it's always a really hot topic, especially amongst the comic book community, the speculation and flipper community, the hype people that really push books on us and everything. And the thing that I'm seeing, this trend of people really being sad around, oh man, this book is just not selling as much, or in reverse, people really like gloating about the fact that, you know, Amazing Fantasy 15 sold for some amount of money, and now here in late 2022 it's sold for 40% less, and they just think it's hysterical. Yet they also have live claim sales, and they're showing off the books they're buying. It's very just strange, the type of people and the information and the message. You just kind of get mixed messages. Like, are you a collector? Are you a comic book enthusiast? Do you love cover art? Are you a reader? Do you like Marvel? Do you hate DC? Do you flip? Do you have a backdoor channel where you guys pick out a book that you're gonna hype? Like, it's all so confusing, and everything's kind of mixed messages, and it just feels like there's an evolution where you're interested in comic books, and then you want to start social media where you're sharing your love of comic books, and then the next thing you know, that person's trying to sell through Instagram or some other platform. So it's kind of a little ridiculous to me, especially when the focus and the hype is around what things we're selling for and what they're selling for now, and whether or not the book that's being sold is still being sold at an appropriate amount. I mean, if everything was being overly hyped and overly pushed and everything was at its peak over the last year or two, then things are probably starting to normalize a little bit. And the way that I have handled this through the ups and downs of any market is always think relatively. Meaning, if you're going to buy a book, don't overspend, don't buy into the FOMO, don't buy into the hype, buy at a steep discount, because then if that particular collectible were to lose some of its value, it shouldn't tumble all the way past the price that you paid. Now, in many cases, I am certainly guilty of overpaying, paying fair market value, especially from sites like Heritage Auctions, where I'm buying right at FMV at the time. So I will indulge in that, but I also understand the risk. I'm not going to go cry about it on social media. In cases like this order that I'm about to open, I really try to select low risk books at a discount, so that if 3 months, 6 months, a year later, 2 years later, these particular collectibles were not as desirable, then I could make the case that, you know, I could maybe get in the ballpark of getting my money back. And of course, with any market and any collectible or any investment, it's not always a guarantee, but I do feel like if you're selecting the right books and you're shooting for as high grade as possible, they're more likely to retain their value. So let's get to the unboxing and take a look at some of these great comics. Just a lot of just a fantastic selection. I think the only question with this order, this specific seller on Atomic Avenue, he does list his books as mint. And according to the grading structure on Atomic Avenue, mint is 9.8, and it's defined there in their grading terms, the way that they explain mint, as a perfect or near perfect book with no flaws at all, and it's essentially a 9.8 as a raw, which it's never the case. And in most cases, when you're buying comics, you kind of want to downgrade the books about a grade or two. So if somebody says it's a 9.8, think 9.4. If it's a 9.4, think 9, and so forth. That way you're not disappointed. And with my analysis in terms of which books I should purchase next, how I prioritize them. The sort of step down concept of the grading, it's all built into my formula so that I'm able to quickly identify which books I want to buy. And then through my risk assessment, if the book does come back in a grade or two less than advertised, then I haven't really experienced any loss. And I'd love to get to this unboxing now and take a look at these great comics. And that one that I really built this order around, I'm really pulling for it, hoping that it is in a high grade. So let's get to it. All right, here we go. Here is that order from P. Willis on Atomic Avenue. Just perfect here. You got priority mail 2-day, fragile, don't jam, push, or squeeze these comics into the mailbox, handled with care. Beautiful outside packaging, do not bend, lots of stickers and information to help protect the order. So let's get this opened up. Okay, I want to stop right here. There was a lot of painter's tape, but I want to check this out. First thing, they're really stuck together tight here. So I'm a little concerned there that some of these are getting pulled and bent, but hopefully not the case. Especially here too, you can see it's the Batman right here on the front it's just being really, it's being pulled down, and it's super tight, and it's right on the book. When I pack books like this, I typically lay a piece of cardboard, or I just take another bag and board, especially those really crappy ones from Midtown, and I'll just place it right on top. Again, the stupid sticker that they put on it away from the book, and then I'll tape that, so that way it's a nice flat layer. But it's like the book's being squeezed as tightly as possible. It's just not necessary. However, tape pulls, he used them, sweet. So very easy to peel off. You just try not to use too much force when you bend it, or pulling the tape, I should say, that you're not bending the comic. So thank you for at least putting the tape pulls on there. It's just, you can kind of see the book itself right there. It was just pulled a little bit with the tape. Hopefully not too bad. It is probably something that could be pressed, but just wanted to point that out. All right, first up is Batman 334. This one's from 1981. Great Jim Aparo cover. I guess technically bondage cover. I'm sure that like quadruples the value because there's some chains on the front. But very cool color scheme with the purple, the cave. Just, I think, a very traditional Jim Aparo Batman cover here, 50-cent cover. This one, all of these books were, I believe, near mint. Yeah, they were either near mint or 9.8 mint. So again, trying to get these all in high grade, and certainly getting them for under fair market value. I can tell without even taking it out of the bag and board that this is not near mint. Several color breaking spine ticks, about 5 or 6 that I can see there, but still considered to be high grade. And again, that, I'm expecting maybe around a 9.0, which is probably what this book will end up as. So you kind of price the book accordingly and make your decisions based on that, so that, I'm not disappointed that it will end up being around an 8.5 to a 9.0, because still, as time goes on, that's still going to be considered very high grade. Next is Defenders 109. Great cover art here by Al Milgrom. A lot going on with Enchantress and Valkyrie and the Defenders. Defenders, not another title that I really collected quite a bit of, but I'm kind of retroactively going in and filling my collection with Defenders books. And, they tried everything. We even got Spider-Man in here trying to do everything possible to breathe life into the Defenders team. Whenever I think of Defender, I think of Doctor Strange, I think of Valkyrie, I think of Hulk, certainly with Valkyrie here front and center. Very just typical of a Defenders issue, and was a good value pick. And also, this one was listed as a 9.8. So might want to take one of these out and grade them just to see what an actual 9.8 looks like as advertised. Here is Green Lantern 148. This one was purchased as a near mint copy. It does have a little bit of a stack increase here and a couple color breaks, but not too bad of a copy. This is the, I guess, first appearance of Chip, CH''P, who was rescued from execution by the Guardians of the Universe. I'm just going to go ahead and take everybody's word for it on that he was rescued. But yeah, pretty significant color break right there. Could be pressed and improved a little bit, but uh, again, high grade, not too bad. And if I'm not buying Batman, who is my favorite DC character, my next tier after Batman is certainly Green Lantern, Wonder Woman. So on occasion, I'll go ahead and pick out a back issue from those characters or titles to add to my collection. Next is Iron Man 167, and this was a book in the last order I unboxed. It's the cover, kind of an odd cover a little bit, by Luke McDonnell with Obadiah Stane. Is it his first cover, second appearance? I mean, this was the villain from Iron Man 1, giving off Lex Luthor vibes and everything. Just really kind of a weird, freaky cover there. Now you can't unsee it. But just it's one of those kind of odd books. It should be more important, but it's not. And it's just that. It's just Obadiah Stane on the front. But now I have 2 copies of this. This one also, no, this was just near mint, just a near mint book. I definitely see, so I'm seeing the same thing. So for a near mint, we've got 3, 4, 5 color breaking spine ticks, a little bit of a stacking crease. So again, a pressing candidate probably maxes out at a 9.2 at most, but somewhere in that 8.5, 9.0 range. And again, that's just because people don't know how to grade comics. They'll just kind of put everything and anything on a description. And we've all seen them, presents well and so forth. But this is also what I do is I study the sellers and I figure out what is the grade that we're most likely to see if I were to order a book with a listed or predicted condition. One of the very first sellers I bought from off of eBay when I was making out my list in terms of what books they had at auction, when the auction was ending, and it was great. They had a grade point assigned to every book, and it was typically 3 or 4 grades overgraded. And I simply looked at the grade and I put my projected grade, and then I figured out, okay, if it's a near mint and I think it's going to come back as a VF, what is it worth? And people would see the listings and see them listed as near mint, and they'd look at the photo and go, that's not near mint, and they'd close it. They wouldn't bid. And I was able to snatch a lot of like mid to, somewhere in the mid to high grade range with books with a lot of value, just because people were so annoyed and irritated with the fact that they were not listing the books appropriately. But what I noticed is that it was just specifically 3 or 4 grades higher. And you're able to do that with sellers over time. And this seller in particular, Paul Willis, is exactly that. So you can pretty much bank on him overgrading by 2 grades. Now the next 4 or 5 books, they're all listed as 9.8. This is Saga of the Swamp Thing, number 35. I think I said I only buy Green Lantern and Wonder Woman if it's not Batman. And of course now I'm a liar because I'm buying Swamp Thing. This was always a cover that for some reason was just burned into my memory as a young collector. And again, there were a lot of comics that scared me. Alan Moore scared me. Swamp Thing scared me. Now that I'm older, these still scare me, but I don't mind adding them to my collection. I think that Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing is super important to the comics lore. And I think I want to open this one just as an example and just kind of show you like what is a 9.8. Don't look at the next book or any of the other ones. Wait for me to open this. But I think that I want to see, if P. Willis is listing these as a 9.8, what real condition? Is it really 2 grades? Is it 3? Or are they 9.8? So a really fun, interesting cover. I love the design of it. And let's take a look. It does have some darker elements. And I think just holding it up here to the light and shifting it just a bit, there's just some faint spine ticks, but not color breaking. Right there is one. Hard to see, but I mean, and that's a good thing. But there are a couple that would need some tack iron work. There we go, right there. Those are the 2 that I'm seeing. Another one right here, but again, not color breaking, so that's cool. And 1 or 2 more up here. So I think if I'm looking at it as is, I'm already starting to downgrade it to a 9.6. Just a little bit of a touch of a corner softening there, but not too bad. Also blends in with the art, so it's hard to see This top corner is super sharp. Uh, Kind of a reverse stacking crease. I mean, it's definitely a stacking crease here. There you can kind of see that would need to be pressed out. This whole thing is running end to end, edge to edge there. How about the back? Surprisingly, just a little dirty, and then big stacking crease on the back there, but slightly dirty. Probably would take one dry cleaning or one wet cleaning pass, and I think we'd be fine. But a very, very strong copy. Not a 9.8 out of the chute, but definitely impressive and pressable. Definitely worthy of pressing and cleaning. So I would probably, the fact that it's just a little bit dirty on the back, but it's not bad. I mean, I want to give it a 9.2, but it's borderline 9.2, 9.4. I think the fact that it has multiple stacking creases makes it a 9.2 for me, but absolutely a pressing candidate. So yeah, I think on this one, I'll go ahead and give it a 9.2. And I'm going to mark clean and press because I probably would at least wipe the back down. But, I'm kind of giving it one more glance here in the light. I don't see any other creasing. Really strong. It's borderline 9.4, I think. So a really strong copy. So if I'm a pretty harsh grader, I think the more books I get back from CGC where I haven't accurately graded them, I feel like I have to be even harsher with my books. So that's why I'm looking at a 9.2. You could certainly make the case that this is just a straight 9.4. So I think so far I'm probably correct in that he's just overgrading his books by about 2 grades. So love it replaced in my own bag and board there. And you can see just a little bit of the creasing and spine ticks as it, even in the bag, you can kind of see it. But I still think I got it for a good price, even if it is in a 9.4. And I don't pay like the 9.8 fair market value. I assume that anything on Atomic Avenue that's listed as mint 9.8, I just lump it together as a 9.4. So I factor all of this in so that I'm not overpaying or I'm not paying an inflated, overhyped price. Not that anybody is really pumping Saga of the Swamp Thing right now. They're too busy speculating on moderns anyway. So let's look at the next book, and it is another Saga of the Swamp Thing. It's Saga of the Swamp Thing 36. Another fantastic cover here, written by Alan Moore. This is obviously the issue before 37, which is the first appearance of John Constantine, Hellblazer. This one, too, is suffering from a stacking crease, and it's probably because the books were packaged so tight. I always wrap my books in bubble wrap, and you have to let them breathe. You don't want them to slide around. But once they're sort of secured in the bubble wrap and, so that they're not sliding around, they have to be able to breathe. These books were really compressed against each other and taped very, very tightly. Again, appreciate the painter's tape, but still, like, just let the books breathe a little bit. Plus, they all smell anyway, so they're all stinking each other up. Looks to be pretty good. I won't take this one out in grade, but again, looks to be in the ballpark of that 9.4, but absolutely would have to get the stacking crease out in order for it to be a 9.8 candidate in there. But not too bad. Really, really nice, strong copy of that one, so happy with that. All right, another sort of like filler value pick. This is Silver Surfer 65. Hard to pass up when it's advertised as a mint 9.8 copy. Got Ron Lim pencils and cover art, and written by Ron Mars, so you get a double dose of the Rons on this one. Ron Lim just like cranked out all of these Silver Surfer issues. This is the second ongoing long-term Silver Surfer series. Again, kind of the same comments. Strong copy, high grade, but stacking creased up and down both sides of the book. So that's just something that hopefully I could get out myself with a quick press if need be. All right, last couple books. This one is Wonder Woman 74, and kind of a interesting cover of all of these guys sitting there, and then there's Wonder Woman in her costume. But the main reason I picked this up is because the cover art was done by Brian Bolland. And I think with Bolland, you're either a fan or you're not. I'm a fan, but it was a memorable run, and a lot of these DC titles with especially Wonder Woman, Catwoman, there are famous runs. There are well-known runs, whether you like the art or not, and they definitely have some historical significance. In Balin's run on Wonder Woman, it does have a couple of very, very well-known covers that have been homaged and so forth. This is not one of them, but it is part of the run. And I always feel like when you take notice of a specific artist or cover, and if for some reason maybe that's out of your budget or it's just not available, find the comics around it, find the comics adjacent or nearby. And this is one of those books. Okay, now the last book is the book that I built this order around. This is Seduction of the Innocent. It's a 3D special by Eclipse Comics, and it's 3D special number 1. And it felt to me like, especially around this Halloween, like this cover was homaged so many different times, or there were multiple Dave Stevens covers that were homaged, and I really just kind of got sick and tired of seeing all the homage covers and the full art variants of those and everything. I'm like, I gotta see if I can find the original. Lo and behold, this seller had the original of this book, and it was listed as a 9.8 mint. So I figured, well, in a worst case, maybe it's, somewhere in the 994, and we are about to find out. But there it is, all in 3D. Crazy. Yeah, so let's take a look. Again, suffering from the same stacking crease that they all were, and I have to attribute that to the packaging. I mean, I don't know if they would all get that creased just in the mail. Here's another one going this way. But again, what's nice is that's pressable. The corners look great. Just slightly soft up there, but not bad. I would say that that's acceptable if we're talking about a 9.8. No spine ticks at all. None. Not even non-color breaking. There is a little bit of a dent right in there, almost just like a little bit of a nail press. So that might take a little bit of extra work. But the big thing is up in here is this stacking crease. That's what we're dealing with. Now, to what degree does that crease knock this book down? Lots of other creasing on the back that go side to side, from edge to edge. Right in here is another crease, non-color breaking. Not sure what that is, if it's a ink stain or a smudge of some sort. So it definitely has defects to it, but it can definitely be improved. And what does this book max at? Does it max at 9.8 if all of that comes out? I'm not sure, but there's just too many significant creases for me to even say it's a 9.4. I think I'd have to put it as a 9, and I'd hate to do that with such a great book, but I'm thinking 9.0. Staples are just a bit pushed as well, so I'd have to be careful with that if someone were to press this out and not further push the staples in. But what I'm pleased about is the spine. The spine is gorgeous. It's beautiful. What a great Dave Stevens book. I'm going to give it a 9 just because I think, and you can see there just how bad that dent and that creasing is. But the corners and spine are so good that I think if you are realistically grading that book, and every time I look at it, it's even worse. I'm like, is that a 9? Are we looking at an 8? I'm still going to give it a 9 just because the binding of the book is so strong. And honestly, I don't really care about the value or the condition. It's getting a fullback just because I love the book. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to put a 9.0 and just the press. I don't think it needs to be cleaned in any way. I really feel like I lucked out. I want to look at the values now and compare it to what I paid for the books, because I want to see, did I overpay for any of these? Did I catch a little FOMO with this one because it was purchased right around Halloween or just after? But there it is, rebagged and board with a fullback. Just absolutely gorgeous. You can take all the homage covers and store exclusives, and I will just really, really love and appreciate the fact that I was able to find that original. It's not that difficult to find. It's out there, but I wanted to get it as a 9.8 candidate. I don't know if this is it. I think it's a 9.0 that has the ability to be pressed, but I would say conservatively, it probably, if just all the general creasing comes out, it probably could max out at least a 9.6. So those are the books. Lots of fun, great, interesting comics. The this Obadiah Stane one, I just got one over. But lots of great stuff. So let's compare what I paid for these books against the fair market value and also the values if I were to get these books graded. All right, here is that order that I placed with Atomic Avenue from P. Willis 3130 back on November 18th, 2022. Shipped very securely. The books were probably shipped a little too tight, so there was some additional creasing and things happening there. But all in all, I would say the books are structurally sound, and a lot of those creases can come out very easily with at least a quick press. So I'll look and see what these books are valued at if I were to send them in for grading. But first I want to look at the raw value. So it was a $75.25 order. There was one book canceled. Sandman 58 was also part of my order, but the seller claimed it was out of stock, so it was canceled. But if we look at the fair market value provided by Cover Price and the fair market value, I am using my own formula to generate what I think is the raw fair market value. When I'm buying back issues, I am typically only buying them when they're advertised as near mint. Certainly there are cases where I will buy mid-grade or the low end of the high grade or something somewhere in between. But when I'm buying these sorts of books where I would say it's not that people are not collecting the same books that I am, you just don't see these books really hyped and promoted on social media like you do other books. So I'm able to find them online, listed and advertised in near mint. So the Cover Price fair market value that I use is either the near mint fair market value, or I evaluate all of the grades and all of the values and select the most appropriate one. And that's what's represented here in column U. Now, if I compare it to how much I paid, this order was sent to me with free shipping and there was no sales tax. So just adding up the price I paid for each book here, total $75.25, which matches my invoice. And then I can compare the total cost against Cover Price. And if I'm just looking at raw value and adding value to my collection in terms of raw books only, not getting them graded, just as is, I have potentially added $73.75 of value to my collection, because every single one of these books I ended up purchasing for under fair market value based on the condition I purchased them at and the reported fair market value provided by Cover Price. Big winner here for me, Batman 334. Cover Price has that book at $54 in near mint, and near mint for Cover Price is a range. I think it's 9.0 to 9.4, and I think I graded that book roughly, just eyeballing it, as around a 9 with the spine ticks, maybe a 9.2, but probably more like a 9. And I spent $20 to get the book for a nice value add of $34. Seduction of the Innocent 3D #1, that Dave Stevens book, fair market value for that in near mint is $32. I paid $20 for that one as well, for a nice value add of $12. And everything else was pretty standard, straightforward. Couple dollars here, $3 there. Saga the Swamp Thing 35. Listed fair market value is 14. I paid 7, so kind of doubled my value there. That great Brian Bolland Wonder Woman, $7 fair market value, I paid $4.75. So again, it's not necessarily 50% off. Maybe if you're looking at everything, I've sort of doubled value, so maybe you could guesstimate 50%. You know, somewhere maybe 25 to 35% off of fair market value, just to kind of be conservative in that regard. So again, if the market is softening or correcting or whatever you want to call it, and we lose 20, 30, 40%, then, you know, I'm looking to get my money back. I'm buying now as a buyer when the market is a little bit lower, so my prices are a little bit lower in terms of what I'm looking at and willing to spend and what my budget's at. So again, everything's relative, and I really try not to stress about it. It's supposed to be a fun hobby. These are all like orders where I'm just treating myself and just adding bulk to my collection, adding great high grade books every time I place an order. Speaking of high grades, let's take a look and see if these are all near mint 9.4 as advertised, because that is the definition of near mint according to everybody. Then let's see if any of these books have a value as graded by CGC, and some do and some do not. Batman 334, $25 at a 9.4. That's a little disappointing. Saga, the Swamp Thing, $35 and $36, $30 and $36. Again, that would be under as a loss if I were to send those books off to CGC and they did get 9.4s. I'm just better off buying the slabs themselves. And that is something that I think about. Like if you have a book and you're pretty sure this is either the grade or this is the grade that it maxes out as, it's just a question like, should I grade it? And the answer would be no in these cases. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. The book that stands out for me in a 9.4 is the Dave Stevens book, where that in a 9.4 is $59 for, a very, very modest $6.32 value add there, but probably not worth the trouble to send that one in. However, I would really strongly consider getting that book pressed and see if I could move it up into the 9.6 or even 9.8 space. Now, I always like to flip all of these to see what is the potential for this order. If I were to really just kind of hit a home run and maybe P. Willis is starting to correct his grading, and these are true 9.8 raws, which they aren't. But if they were, let's take a look here. And man, the order really does change. So now, looking at the total CGC value, there is a potential for this order of $1,213.59. And almost all of these books start popping here. We've got Batman 334 that goes from almost a mediocre or worthless 9.4 all the way up to $266.50 in a 9.8. Defenders 109 at $249 in a 9.8. Green Lantern 148 at 160. Iron Man 167 at 285. Don't know if I believe that one. But I did a quick look up here. Here is Iron Man 1983 167, one sale from 2021 at 285. Probably not going to see that price anytime soon, but it's the only value that I have to go by because my CGC values are driven by GPA and a couple of other sources. It is what it is. Interesting that it only had one sale and a 9.8, but there it is nonetheless. Saga the Swamp Thing 35 at 159, 36 dips to 83 and a 9.8. Seduction of the Innocent in a 9.8, 177.50. So I feel like that's a great investment, great gamble at $20. And I keep thinking of the book. I think of the corners and the spine. It's just gorgeous. I just hope I can get those creases out one way or another. Silver Surfer 65 at a 9.8 is 120, and Wonder Woman 74, $83 and a 9.8. That one's surprising to me. I really thought maybe if you're looking at values, Silver Surfer and Wonder Woman might be flipped or backwards in that regard. But yeah, really strong order here of books. But I think it is going to kind of depend on whether or not these, so-called 9.8s as advertised, if I'm able to look at any of them and really cap them after a press or a clean impress at a 9.8. I'm not exactly sure. There were, at least two that had visible color breaking spine ticks, many of them where even, a 9.4 is out of the question. But I think going back to what I was originally saying, it's if you're into collecting, then it's always going to be a buyer's market to some degree. To say it's a buyer's market or a seller's market too is often confusing, because to me, it means that you end up having the persona of both at some point. And it really doesn't matter what you're buying or what you're selling. It could be real estate, and they could say, what's a buyer's market? Well, they say that because the intent is at some point you're going to sell. You're going to want to sell your home. And if you're an owner and somebody says it's a seller's market, you're typically going to sell and turn around and have to buy. So I really don't quite sweat it. I don't really think about it. I mean, if somebody says this is the best time to be a buyer if you're into comic books, well, if you love the hobby, then it's always a great time to be a buyer. I mean, collect what you love, buy what you like, whatever phrase you want to use, but it's just a matter of what's in your budget. And certainly as we're looking at different ways that we're spending our money and we're prioritizing, we may not all have the budget to just go all out and buy Ultimate Fallout 4 9.8s left and right. Like it just may not be in our budget to go out and seek out multiple $1,000 9.8s and just keep buying them over and over and over. Our budgets may be smaller, but that doesn't mean it's not a buyer's market. You just may not be buying as much. I'm not a fan of either term, especially when it comes to something like a collectible, unless you're just being honest with yourself and you're like, yes, sometimes I'm a buyer because I want to sell, and sometimes I'm a seller because I want to buy. That's fine. I have no problem with that. So instead of worrying or wondering if it's a buyer's market, if it's a seller's market, is this the perfect time to sell? Should I get a book graded? Should I buy it? Should I not? I say just enjoy the fact that it's a collector's market. Thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.